Well, starting Saturday and for the next 17 days, we will be remembering the event that changed the way we see ourselves. The man that many credit with taking the 2010 Vancouver Olympic Games from a dream to reality is VANOC CEO John Furlong. Now, 1 year later, his new book chronicles that journey. It's called Patriot Hearts, Inside the Olympics That Changed a Country. And earlier today, I sat down with John Furlong to talk about it. I was thinking as I was reading it, while you have the skills of a politician, I'm not sure you have the temperament, because you don't pull any punches either in this book. You take some shots at people that disappointed you, and including politicians, and Gregor Robertson is one of them.
Well, to be honest, I thought he did a great job, but there were moments along the way when the goals of our partners and the goals of the organizing committee didn't always line up exactly the same way, and sometimes we found ourselves in a place where we were trying to serve many masters, and finding a compromise is not easy. And so we had a few moments. If I was picking a moment in all of this that I was really annoyed with a politician, it was Larry Campbell. And if he had hair at the time, I would have gone right up and pulled it out, and I told him so. We had this great Celtic argument about, what are you doing? We're 6 years into this thing now, and we're telling the world that we're not sure we want to do it.
He wanted to hold a referendum.
Yeah, and I know that night when that vote was taken, he had a bigger sweat going than anyone else, because I think he would have been, carried out of the back of the city somewhere and thrown in the bushes, because I think people really, I think he also thought we would win, and in his defense, and as much as we were mad at him, and Jack tried and I tried to stop this thing, and I think he made us better with that decision.
We need to touch briefly on Nodar Kumaritashvili's death. Now, you said in the book that the morning that he died, in speaking to the press, you didn't have time to deal with hypothetical questions about the safety of the track. We now know, of course, that those were not hypothetical issues. Looking back over this, do you think there's anything that you could have done?
No, I don't. And if I did, I would come right out and say it. Because, the day that Nodar died, I felt like I lost a member of my own family. And here's the thing, we got this copy of this letter, and we've all probably talked about it too much now, but we got it, and I looked at it, and I thought to myself, okay, what is your duty here with this letter? It's not for us, but I'm reading it and I'm trying to understand what they're really saying. So I draw it to the attention of our team and say, if these guys are saying that there are issues here that could cause, injury or harm, are we doing what we're supposed to? And our team, we're already 6 months into a process on our track to get it ready for the games, and our team comes back and say, everything we're supposed to be doing, we're doing, and we're pressing everybody to perform at a high level. So for someone to say that we would have opened the track unsafe it's like saying, we would throw the keys of the car to our kids and knowing the brakes didn't work. It's never a possibility we would have ever dreamed of doing that.
John, there was so much negativity leading up to the games. Was there a point at which you went, that's it, we hit it out of the park, all the naysayers have been proven wrong?
Yeah, well, it was, I guess for me, here's how I summed it all up. We were on the last day of the games, and as you know in the book, I threatened to kill Rennie Fizell with my pen and all that. But at that moment when Sidney Crosby is out on the ice, and we're in overtime, and I think it's a moment of destiny for the country, and the puck goes in the net. This was, to me, the moment that everything came together, because I saw this as every Canadian was on the ice. No one was watching anymore. People were living it. It was almost like they had scored it themselves, and it raised us up as a country, and our confidence changed, our belief in ourselves changed. We were suddenly giants in the world, and that was the moment when this vision we had came, and you couldn't find anybody who thought it was a bad idea anymore.
The book is called Patriot Hearts. My extended interview with John Furlong will be online at ctvbc.ca later this evening. Republicans, Democrats, opposite ends. It sounds like they've never been further apart. And Barack Obama is saying that it could be a very bleak picture if they don't reach an agreement. What's your take on his speech last night?
It will be a very bleak picture if an arrangement is not arrived at. It's important for Canadians to understand that the United States does not face a debt crisis in the strict sense of the world. There's a planet full of people who are ready to buy U.S. government debt at 3% for 10 years. That is not what happens when you're in a debt crisis. The United States has a political crisis. They have a rule on the books that says even if Congress authorizes deficit spending, you need a separate vote to allow the government to borrow the money to finance the deficit spending. And the Republican majority in the House of Representatives is refusing to allow that second change. So the deficits are all there, they just can't be financed.
Okay, let's go to a worst case scenario. There is no agreement reached. What happens then?
What happens then is that the federal government, the U.S. federal government will have cash on hand to pay about 60% of its obligations. That will be interest on the debt, and then interest on the debt will be covered, but everything else will be up for grabs. And then it's very unpredictable. About 40% of the bills will go unpaid. People have contracts with the federal government, some variety of people who have checks due them from the federal government. Those will be unpaid, but in ways that are very hard to predict because federal cash arrives in big chunks. Federal spending is more continuous. So some days the federal government will have all the cash on hand it needs to meet its bills for that day, and those people might get 100 cents on the dollar, and the next day there may be cash in hand to meet only 20% of obligations, and those people will get 20 cents on the dollar. For Canadians, here are the things to bear in mind. In the very short run, if this lasts a day or two or some hours, this is bullish for Canada. It will mean that Canadian bonds will retain their AAA rating, Canadian interest rates will be lower than in the United States, and the Canadian dollar will go up. But in the longer term, if this crisis extends itself much beyond a few hours, a few days, it pushes the U.S. economy into recession, and Canada will feel that.
Now, isn't this, though, just so much political posturing?
It's so much, yes, it is so much political posturing, but that doesn't mean it can't have deadly serious consequences. I mean, the Cuban Missile Crisis was so much political posturing, but they were posturing, threatening the use of real live nuclear weapons. But the weapons on the table here are very lethal.
Why would the Republicans push it that far? I mean, we're heading into an election. I mean, we know that no Republican wants to actually say, I supported tax increases. But
right.
why would either side push it this far?
Well, there's been a lot of miscalculation, and the Republicans have a problem of very weak leadership, especially in the House of Representatives. So you have a lot of new members. They were elected by a very mobilized and angry Republican electorate. And Republicans also have a media system that is completely separate from the media system of everybody else, between Fox and talk radio. So they often don't believe what they hear from the Financial Times or writers. They think they can somehow force President Obama to balance the budget, to do it all right away, to do it without any tax increases. But this is of their own making, because you don't need to balance the budget right away. You need a plan to balance the budget over the next 10 years.
Right.
But you don't need to do it right away. But they have worked themselves into a state where nothing will do but an immediate solution. They will make no compromises, and they are threatening the ultimate punishment if they don't get their way.
Well, heels dug in. It's going to be interesting to watch as this progresses. Thanks so much, David. Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird joins us live from Washington. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Coleen.
First of all, you and Secretary Clinton have reputations of being rather tough. I'm using a diplomatic term there. How did it go? How did it feel with your first meeting with the Secretary of State?
I think it went very well. We were able to highlight the important priorities of both our countries. Obviously, Prime Minister Stephen Harper's laid out a pretty focused agenda. That's the jobs and the economy remain our #1 priority. So we're able to talk about things that are important to both our economies, keeping the border flowing so that goods and services can make their way across the border, and touch about some important international crises which we're both pretty engaged in.
Well, let's talk about, you brought it up, so let's talk about it, the Shared Border Initiative. Can you elaborate on the plan to make it easier for goods, services, and people to flow more easily across the border?
Yeah, I mean, it's the key element. We've been concerned about the thickening of the border in Canada for some time. So the Prime Minister and President Obama launched an initiative where we have officials who've been working diligently for a good number of months and right over the summer. What we want to do is make it as easy as possible. Take, for example, the auto sector. Some of the auto parts may cross the border 12 times in different components before an automobile is manufactured. We want to make that as easy as possible. We want to make it obviously as easy as possible for people who work in the other country to be able to go back and forth. So officials have been working tremendously hard. I was able to underline the importance that Canada places on this initiative. A lot of work remains, but a lot of public servants on both sides of the borders have been working very hard over the summer months, and we're going to stay focused on this until we get it done.
Minister Baird, let's talk about the Keystone Pipeline, increasing the flow of oil from Alberta to the U.S. Now, the final environmental impact statement is due out this month. Secretary of State Clinton said that she will consider that before making any decisions. Are you concerned at all that this might have a negative impact?
Well, you know, this normally takes 6 to 9 months, and it's going to take, if it goes on schedule, over 30. So, yeah, we are concerned. I was able to highlight how important this is for the future of the Canadian economy and jobs on both sides of the border. The United States has an important decision to make. Do they want to take oil from Canada or from people like Gaddafi in the Middle East? So we were able to highlight the importance of that. What she's considering at the State Department is the whole issue of the pipeline crossing the American border and then going down to the Gulf Coast. So we were pleased. She's going to have a 90-day period for other U.S. departments and agencies to comment, and then naturally a public comment period in the United States in the 6 affected states. Canada and Canadian industry is going to be particularly engaged in this, and we'd like to see this issue resolved by the end of the year.
Okay. Finally, I wanted your stance on Somalia. Both you and the U.S. have said no intervention at this point. What's it going to take to change that?
Well, listen, we call on al-Shabaab to allow the humanitarian delivery of food for the famine relief. It's really unconscionable that you'd have a group of people in charge of a big swath of the country and not allowing food to reach hungry women and children. So we're going to call on al-Shabaab to do the right thing and to allow the aid to be delivered. What we don't want to do is see that they will do the delivery. We don't want to see them try to tax the delivery of important foodstuffs for hungry women and children. This is a hugely important issue, not just for Somalia, but for people around the world. Canada, like the United States, has stepped up to the plate with significant resources to help this famine, and we just want this group to do the right thing.
All right. Thanks for your time this morning, Mr. Baird.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, and his fans like it too. With 9 albums under his belt and record sales well above 55 million, Enrique Iglesias is showing no sign of slowing down. His single, I Like It, is currently sitting at number 4 on Billboard's Hot 100 chart. Enrique was in Toronto earlier this week, and I had a chance to ask him about his new album, his connections to Canada, and his very revealing celebration after Spain won the World Cup. Enrique, you've got a bit of a Canadian connection. Didn't you record your first album in Canada and you spent a few months in Scarborough?
I did. I lived here, actually. Scarborough, that's correct.
How cool is that? Welcome home.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back home. I was 18 at the time, 18, 19. It feels like, actually, it doesn't feel like that long ago.
Really?
It feels like time has flown by so fast.
Well, you've done a lot in the last few years, and you've got a new album out. It's your very first bilingual album, Spanish and English, and you worked with some heavyweight talent on this, both as producers and on the album itself. Tell us about that.
It's been great. There's actually 2 versions, one with more English, one with more Spanish, so I guess the fans can pick. But it's definitely my most eclectic album. I was able to work with artists like Usher to Akon to Pitbull to Nicole Scherzinger from the Pussycat Dolls to Juan Luis Guerra, which is a great Dominican artist, to Wisin y Yandel. It's got a little bit of everything, and I think also being able to work with people that come from different musical backgrounds. At times you get out of your comfort zone, and that's a good thing. Yeah.
Euphoria, the title. Where does that come from?
It comes from when you've done. This is my 9th album, and it's difficult to find at times those euphoric moments that really make you happy, that enthusiastic, and they make you feel like, whoa, I wish everyone could listen to this right now. This really feels good. And I think I was able to stumble upon 5 or 6 of those moments on this album, which is, for me, it's a lot. And that's
Tell us about one. Just give us one example of what has made you euphoric.
For me, I Like It. This, the first single, I always thought it had a lot of good energy. It's not the deepest of songs, obviously, but it's just the energy of it. I felt it was different. And I wrote this 2 years ago, quite some time ago. There's another song called Heartbeat, which I love. The song in the first single in Spanish, Cuando me enamoro, I love that song.
Nice. Okay, we want to talk about something else too. You are the face for a Zara Pearl fragrance.
The way you said that was good French, huh?
Oh yeah,
Very good.
really good.
Don't worry, it took me like 3 hours to practice just to say 2 words.
Now, the brand for the perfume is the consummate ladies' man, and they chose you because they said you are the consummate
Did you ever watch
ladies' man.
SNL?
I'm a ladies' man. Now, I want to know.
Lady man.
Are you a ladies' man, or should
Of course I'm a lady man.
Should I be asking your girlfriend of some 8 years, Anna Kournikova? Would she have a better answer to that?
She knows I'm a lady man. I'm kidding. I just like the way that sounds. Is it really?
Yeah.
Is that what the
That's what the brand is all about.
Is it? Who
the
said that?
consummate ladies' man.
No, it doesn't.
Yes,
it doesn't.
it does.
That doesn't say that.
You go online, look it up.
It does. It's well, I've seen the pictures and stuff. I never see the lady man.
And the photo of you with the woman behind you?
Well, it's actually, you see, that only happens in campaigns and videos. That's the only way that when people see all these videos with women and the pictures with the naked girl behind me, that's only happens in photo shoots. Oh. That's why I like to do these campaigns.
Let's go back to Anna.
Go ahead.
Is it hard to have a relationship when you're two hugely recognized individuals?
I think it's hard to have a relationship, period.
Good answer. Yeah.
I think relationships take a lot of work, but when they work, it's worth it.
Yeah. I'm not going to let you go.
Okay.
Without reminding you that you said if Spain won the World Cup, you would water ski naked. And you did.
How do you know I did?
Oh, yeah. There's tape on you.
I used to do that when I was a teenager. It's stupid bets you make with your friends. That's how much I like soccer. For me, the World Cup is the most thrilling sport event there is. I love soccer. There's nothing that I'm more passionate about. I love watching it, and the older I get, the more I like it. And Spain had a rough start with Switzerland, and then my friends would make fun of me because I told them that they were the #1 team in the FIFA ranking, and that's how the bet come about.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it.